for the rest of this evening, I want to spend more of our time with some teachings that are likely way less familiar to almost all of you, and they are the 12 links of dependent arising. So that's the other side. The 12 links of dependent arising and its cousin. And you've got those diagrams on your handout. How many are familiar with either of those? 12 links of dependent arising. Oh, very fun then. Excellent. And again, we're not diving deeply into these, and we don't expect you to master them. There's a reason why I'm doing this, you'll see. So the top cycle, the 12 links of dependent arising, points to the importance of working with poisons as a path to freedom from suffering. And the second cycle, the bottom one on your handout, focuses on cultivating wholesome qualities as a path to freedom from suffering. And they're very, very different. We'll look at the top one first, which is the classical one. So 12 links of dependent arising are a series of specific sequential causes and conditions that lead to and perpetuate suffering. It's a chain that unfolds over and over again, possibly over many lifetimes, unless we practice enough to change that trajectory. They show how actions driven by ignorance lead to a continuous cycle of birth, suffering, and then old age, and then death, and then rebirth, and then more suffering. It sounds tiring to me, but they're considered a core and fundamental teachings that offer much, much more detail on the foundational teaching that I mentioned several times earlier, suffering is caused by clinging. So it kind of opens up the teaching, suffering is caused by clinging, like an accordion. It dives deeper. And they can be really hard to get one's head around at first, so don't try. I'll give a concrete example in a minute. And I have to admit that I am not a fan of this teaching at all, except for parts 6 through 9, which revolve around our response to pleasant and unpleasant stimuli, which are very, very practical and useful and make a lot of sense, immediate applications in this life. And this cycle happens over and over again unless we practice non-resistance and non-clinging at those stages. But beyond those middle stages, to me, this cycle is not at all appealing. I mean, the part about being reborn again and again and again into more suffering. And then also, as you study it more, nothing about that here, but there's a teaching that says when you have completely purified your reactions to things, in other words, you're enlightened, that you're never born again. No, what would be the point of that? I ask you, right? Because personally, I can't yet imagine a lifetime where I look forward to not being born again. If there's reincarnation, and I'm not saying there is, but let me do it again, please. A do-over, right? And especially, this is if I've purified the poisons, and am living my happiest life at ease, bothered by nothing, devoting my life to service. I mean, why in the world would I want to not be born again? I don't. I guess when I am fully enlightened, I'll be fine with that. But I have a long way to go, clearly. It seems as if I'm on a bodhisattva path, which some of you may have heard of, which is a path where one forsakes not being born again to keep returning and devoting their lives to compassion and service. That's plan B. I'll take that one. So we're going to take a look at how the 12 links of dependent arising might unfold in a microcycle of samsara suffering in daily life to try to make sense of how it works using a fictional friend, Sam. And we'll call it Sam's cycle of suffering, or Sam's cycle of samsara, or your cycle of samsara, because as you listen, you'll see similar patterns in your own life. So, as you look at the handout, we'll start with number 1. It begins with ignorance, not knowing, the poison, right? So Sam forgets that late night binge watching will lead to feeling awful the next day, mistaking short-term pleasure for long-term wellness. Anybody do that? Right? All right, and then from that, we have volitional formations, although it's habitual patterns on your thing. Habits and actions arise from ignorance. So Sam decides just one more episode and prepares snacks, reinforcing the habitual tendencies, right? And then consciousness arises. So his awareness becomes absorbed in the show, and he's only dimly aware of his need for sleep. And then we have name and form. And this one is really tricky. At its core, this refers to the separation between a label, like cup, and the actual form of the cup. So it's about separating the mental from the physical. It creates a separateness rather than connectedness. So Sam's body and mind are disconnected. His body is tired, but his mind is filled with thoughts about the show. And this perpetuates those habitual patterns, the split, this disconnect, right? And then we have senses are happening. So Sam's eyes are fixated on the screen, his ears are taking in sound, his mind is spinning, and all of the sense doors are hijacked. And here's where we get to the magical, those 6 through 9 I told you about. So contact, so our senses connect with sensory objects. Sam's senses experience direct contact with the show, snacks, and atmosphere, deepening his immersion. From contact comes feeling, and many of you are familiar with feeling tone or Vedana, right? So every single time we're connecting with the outside world, our senses, there's going to be a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling tone. Sam is feeling a lot of pleasant excitement, laughter, like maybe being scared. Some people, find that pleasant. I don't, but I'm just saying. But also fatigue is present, but largely ignored because of that split, right? Because of the separateness. And then from feeling tone comes craving or desire. So he wants the pleasant feelings to continue, and he hopes for endless episodes and dreads the wait for the next season. Does that happen to anybody? Yeah, right? After craving comes clinging or holding on. So it's just a tighter grasp. That's where we would call it attachment. Sam is really hanging on now. He's glued to the couch, he's clutching his remote, and he's convinced he's going to get a head start on watching the next season, no matter what it takes. Maybe he'll get a VPN and try to see the season before it gets out in the US, or he'll invent some kind of a hack. It happens. You can actually do that. I know because I've tried. I've used a VPN before, and I've actually been able to see something that wasn't going to be in the US for a year. So after that, after the clinging, is becoming. So we get caught up in all that holding on. Identity forms. His identity is formed as like a true fan. And that attachment shapes further actions. So Sam forms the vow, I'll binge every series, sleep doesn't matter, and the habits deepen, right? And then comes birth, and morning comes, along with a new version of Sam, Zombie Sam. And that everything that's born dies, and so aging and death is the last step on this cycle. His energy crashes, his productivity dies, he suffers headaches and regret. And without changing that trajectory on step 6, the cycle continues over and over again, where rather than craving and clinging, he just notices that pleasant and let go. So that's the opportunity for change. Notice all the, I want to watch, I want to stay up and watch it. You guys relate to that? I want to watch another one. You notice that craving, and you recognize that, okay, I'm not going to do that. So Sam's night of binge watching starts with ignorance and ends in the suffering of next day exhaustion. completing that classic cycle of cause and effect, just as the Buddha explained. But you guys relate, right? It's just a micro example, right? But you see how I have resistance to it because it takes the fun out of fun. I'm just saying. Because how can you enjoy binge watching a show now after hearing about Sam? I've had a bit of a phone game compulsion this past year, much to my embarrassment because I've never played any games. Discovered it by accident, and I've been watching that same cycle play out over and over again for weeks, vowing to stop, but I get hooked at that point of pleasant contact almost every time, and that almost immediately becomes clinging because the dopamine rush, when you succeed and you get to the next level, it's a thing, it's real, it's very pleasant. I used to judge gamers. But here's the thing, now I've become one, right? That step, becoming, right? I've become one. But the 12 links literally takes the fun out of this because since I'm a serious practitioner, I can't just enjoy my game in peace. I need to study it and report back to my teacher. Yeah, it's not fun at all. I'm doing it though because I'm a good student. But seriously though, the important thing is this cycle can be interrupted around that feeling, tone, craving, clinging step. If we can just notice the sensation of pleasant or unpleasant and let go. Just let the sensation be without grasping after more of the pleasant or pushing away the unpleasant. That prevents the next step, becoming, right? There's great, great potential in studying and putting these 12 into practice, but I am not a fan still. I'm kind of an Eeyore about them. I know Eeyore says like, it's all for naught. Don't think I will ever be happy. Nothing will ever change. I told my teacher this and he laughed.